Oh, look who's decided to join the galactic playground, the species that apologizes to their enemies before shooting them. The thunderous laughter that followed High Counselor Vex Zara's comment echoed through the crystalline chambers of the Galactic Council. Commander Alexandra Blackwood maintained her parade rest stance, jaw clenched but face carefully neutral. After 20 years in Earth's Special Operations Command, she'd learned that sometimes the best response was no response at all. The aliens around her continued their mockery, their various appendages gesturing wildly as they discussed humanity's quaint and primitive rules of warfare. They refused to use biological weapons, shrieked Counselor Wykes TL, their crystalline body vibrating with mirth, because it's not sporting. And they insist on treating prisoners with respect, added another, practically choking on the word, as if warfare is some kind of diplomatic dinner party. Blackwood's eyebrow twitched slightly. The Kh'raxian representative, a towering mass of chitinous plates and glowing red sensor nodes, leaned forward in his gravity chair. How do they expect to survive against species like us? The Kh'raxian Empire has conquered 17 star systems through total warfare. We do not burden ourselves with restrictions. Perhaps Blackwood finally spoke, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of human military tradition. That's precisely why we've survived this long. The chamber fell silent, multiple species turning to stare at her with various configurations of eyes, sensory organs, and visual processors. Explain yourself, human demanded the Kh'raxian representative, his mandibles clicking in barely contained aggression. When you have rules, Blackwood continued, allowing herself a small, dangerous smile, you have to get creative. You have to think, plan, innovate. When your only solution is kill everything, you become predictable. And in warfare, predictability is death. The Galactic Defense Force's Supreme Commander, an ancient Kh'raxian whose serpentine form bore the ceremonial markings of countless campaigns, raised an appendage for silence. Bold words, Commander Blackwood. Yet humanity's application to join the Defense Force stands before us. You claim these restrictions make you stronger? The Kh'raxian Empire's latest expansion suggests otherwise. With all due respect, Supreme Commander Blackwood's steel-gray eyes locked onto the Kh'raxian representative. Perhaps it's time someone showed the Empire that there's more to winning a war than leaving a trail of radioactive craters. The chamber erupted in a mix of outrage, amusement, and disbelief. As the council members argued among themselves, Blackwood caught the subtle nod of approval from the Kh'raxian Supreme Commander. The old warrior had seen something in her words, a truth the others were too busy laughing to notice. Humanity was about to teach the galaxy that following rules didn't make them weak. It made them dangerous in ways their enemies couldn't begin to imagine. And Commander Alexandra Blackwood was looking forward to delivering the first lesson. 3 weeks after humanity's controversial admission to the Galactic Defense Force, the Kh'raxians decided to give their new neighbors a proper welcome. Their idea of a welcome party involved raiding a human colony's outer defense perimeter with a fleet of 20 warships. Because nothing says hello quite like plasma cannons at dawn. Commander, they're targeting the civilian evacuation routes, Lieutenant Raj Patel reported from his communications station, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces as he coordinated with ground forces. The bastards are deliberately herding refugees toward their gun lines. Commander Blackwood stood at the bridge of the GDF Thermopylae, watching tactical displays with the kind of intensity that made junior officers nervous. Of course they are. Because why bother with military targets when you can shoot fish in a barrel? Her voice dripped with enough sarcasm to fill an Olympic swimming pool. We have a solution, Weapons Officer Chen announced. One Alpha strike on their command ship's position would end this, but she hesitated, checking readings again. They've positioned themselves above the colony's main hospital complex. How considerate of them, Blackwood's lip curled. Lieutenant Patel, what's your assessment of their communications? Patel's dark eyes lit up with professional interest. They're running standard Kh'raxian encryption, but their tactical chatter is interesting. Their commander, someone called Vex Thor, keeps ranting about showing the humans true warfare also. Their comm discipline is absolutely terrible. They're broadcasting everything from battle plans to what they had for breakfast. Sloppy Blackwood leaned forward. And arrogant. Patch me through to their command frequency. You're not seriously going to try to negotiate? The Kh'raxian liaison officer, Tzil, flicked their tongue in disbelief. The Kh'raxians don't negotiate during raids. It's not their way. Who said anything about negotiating? Blackwood's smile would have made a shark nervous. Lieutenant Patel, show me what you can do with their command and control systems. With pleasure, Commander Patel's fingers became a blur. Did you know their targeting systems are networked, very efficient, also very hackable, and their internal communication protocols? Oh my, someone really should have updated those after the last war. The Kh'raxian fleet suddenly found their carefully coordinated attack disrupted by an endless stream of contradictory orders, emergency alerts, and what appeared to be several thousand copies of ancient human-cat videos, in 7 different frequencies. You dare vex? Thor's voice boomed across the command channel, mandibles clicking furiously. This is not warfare. This is US fighting with one hand tied behind our back. Blackwood interrupted smoothly. Because we choose to. Because we can. Now, about those civilian evacuation routes. Enough games, the Kh'raxian commander roared. If you won't fight properly, we'll show you how real warriors wage war. What followed was a textbook example of why real warriors should probably read some textbooks. The Kh'raxian fleet, enraged by human cowardice, abandoned their tactically superior position to charge the Thermopylae head-on. They even deployed their infamous boarding parties, apparently forgetting that humans had been perfecting the art of close-quarters combat since they lived in caves. They're advancing directly into our kill box, Chen reported, unable to keep the disbelief from her voice. All guns have perfect firing solutions on their engines and weapons, only, she added quickly, catching Blackwood's look. Lieutenant Patel, please inform our guests that their life support systems are now running on auxiliary power. Also, pipe never gonna give you up through their internal speakers. The 10-hour remix. You're rickrolling a hostile alien fleet. Tzil's scales rippled in confusion. Consider it a cultural exchange program, Blackwood replied dryly. The battle, if you could call it that, ended 3 hours later. The Kh'raxian fleet retreated in disarray, their ships largely intact but their pride severely damaged. They hadn't lost a single warrior, which somehow made it worse. The humans had defeated them without even doing them the courtesy of killing them properly. A victory without honor. Vex, Thor spat his final message. You could have destroyed us, yet you chose to embarrass us instead. Honor. Blackwood's voice was winter cold. Was there honor in targeting civilians? In using a hospital as a shield? You're right about one thing, though. We could have destroyed you. Remember that the next time you mistake restraint for weakness. After the Kh'raxians limped away, Patel turned to his commander. They'll be back, won't they? And they won't underestimate us again. Good. Blackwood watched the tactical display, already planning for the next encounter. Maybe next time they'll actually have to think. It'll be good for them. Educational. Tzil studied the human commander with new understanding. You turned their own arrogance into a weapon against them, without violating a single one of your restrictions. That's the thing about rules, Blackwood said, settling into her command chair. They force you to think outside the box. And humans? We're very, very good at finding boxes no one else even knew existed. The aftermath of the first engagement with the Kh'raxians brought something unexpected: paperwork. Mountains of it. Because apparently, even in the year 2487, humans couldn't wage war without filing it in triplicate. You're doing what Tzil watched in fascination as Commander Blackwood meticulously documented every detail of their encounter, filing reports on enemy combatant treatment, civilian protection measures, and proportional force applications. Blackwood didn't look up from her datapad. The Geneva Convention doesn't stop being important just because we're in space. But they were trying to kill your people. Which is precisely why we have to be better than them. She finally looked up, tapping a finger on her desk. Did you notice how they reacted when we refused to destroy their ships? Lieutenant Patel, who had been analyzing Kh'raxian communications, chimed in. They're absolutely losing it in their encrypted channels. Apparently being shown mercy is some kind of ultimate insult in their culture. Their warriors are demanding revenge to restore their honor. Exactly. Blackwood's smile held all the warmth of a tactical nuclear winter. They're so obsessed with proving their strength that they never considered weakness might be a strategy. The next few weeks proved her point. The Kh'raxians launched raid after raid, each more aggressive than the last. Each time, human forces responded with precise, measured counterattacks that left enemy ships damaged but salvageable, crews humiliated but alive. Look at their formation, Blackwood pointed out during their 6th engagement. They're so focused on appearing strong that they've left their supply lines completely exposed. Lieutenant Patel, would you do the honors? With pleasure, Patel's fingers danced across his console. Transmitting captured Kh'raxian distress calls now. The effect was immediate. The Kh'raxian fleet broke formation to rescue ships that weren't actually in danger, leaving their actual vulnerable support vessels unprotected. Human ships swooped in, disabled their engines with surgical precision, and began broadcasting medical assistance offers on all frequencies. You offer them aid, a visiting Centaurian admiral watched in disbelief. After they attacked you, Article 12 of the First Geneva Convention, Blackwood recited, protection and care of the wounded, even if they're trying to kill you 5 minutes ago. The admiral's crystalline form shimmered with confusion. But how does this help you win? Because right now every Kh'raxian warrior is asking themselves why their deadly enemies keep trying to save their lives. It goes against everything they believe about warfare. And doubt, Blackwood's expression turned predatory. Doubt is more devastating than any weapon. The strategy's effectiveness became apparent during their next major confrontation. The Kh'raxian fleet, twice the size of their previous force, surrounded a human colony. But something had changed. Their formations were hesitant, their attacks lacking their usual brutal efficiency. They're second-guessing themselves, Patel observed, monitoring their communications. Half their commanders are arguing about whether this is a trap. They think we're being nice because we know something they don't. Technically, we do. Blackwood watched the tactical display with satisfaction. We know that true strength isn't about how much damage you can do. It's about how much you choose not to do. The Kh'raxian Supreme Commander, making a surprise inspection, witnessed the entire engagement, watched as human ships deliberately targeted weapon systems while avoiding life support, observed the careful evacuation of damaged Kh'raxian vessels, saw the mounting frustration and confusion in the enemy ranks. Fascinating, the ancient warrior mused. You've turned their own cultural expectations into a weapon against them, without firing a single shot that violates your principles. The best victory, Blackwood responded, is the one that makes your enemy question everything they thought they knew about warfare. As if to prove her point, a message came through from the Kh'raxian fleet. Their warriors were demanding explanations for why humans treated prisoners with respect, why they offered medical aid to enemies, why they refused to simply obliterate their opponents when they had the chance. Send them a copy of the Geneva Conventions, Blackwood ordered Patel. All 448 articles, in both standard galactic and their native language, along with a helpful note about how these restrictions helped humanity survive its own worst impulses. The response was immediate and profane, but underneath the bluster, there was a note of uncertainty. The mighty Kh'raxian Empire, terror of 17 star systems, was beginning to wonder if perhaps they had underestimated these humans and their strange, restrictive rules of warfare. Their retreating Chen announced from her weapons station. Again, without achieving any of their objectives. No, Blackwood's voice held quiet satisfaction. They achieved exactly what we wanted them to achieve. They learned that sometimes the most devastating weapon isn't the one that kills you. It's the one that makes you think. Tzil finished, finally understanding. Your restrictions haven't made you weak at all. They've forced you to become stronger in ways the Kh'raxians never imagined. Welcome to human warfare, Blackwood replied, where sometimes the best way to defeat your enemy is to show them a better way to fight. The Proxima Centauri system wasn't just strategically valuable, it was the kind of place military commanders had wet dreams about. 3 habitable planets, rich asteroid belts, and jump points that could let you kick your enemies in the teeth from 6 different directions. Naturally, the Kh'raxians decided they wanted it. Well, they're certainly compensating for something, Commander Blackwood remarked, studying the tactical display showing the massive Kh'raxian armada approaching Proxima Centauri. I count 200 capital ships, support vessels, and enough firepower to turn this system into a very energetic cloud of debris. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Patel reported, his usual cheerful demeanor tinged with concern. Grand Admiral Vex Thor promises to, and I quote, demonstrate the futility of human warfare restrictions through superior firepower and absolute dominance. How original! Blackwood's voice could have frozen hydrogen. Status of the civilian evacuation. That's the thing. Commander Patel's fingers flew across his console. They're jamming the major evacuation corridors, but they're being sloppy about it, almost like they want us to notice. Because they expect us to react exactly as we have before prioritizing civilian protection over military objectives. Blackwood's smile would have made a shark file for a restraining order. Lieutenant, how do you feel about playing into their expectations? The next few hours were a master class in military theater. Human ships scrambled to protect civilian convoys, appearing increasingly desperate as the Kh'raxian fleet pressed their advantage. Grand Admiral Vex Thor's booming declarations of victory echoed through space, punctuated by the systematic destruction of orbital defense platforms. They're pushing us exactly where they want us, Tzil observed, watching human forces gradually fall back toward Proxima Centauri, I's largest moon. No, Blackwood corrected. They're pushing us exactly where we want them to think they're pushing us. There's a difference. She turned to her weapons officer. Status of Operation Wooden Horse. All pieces in position, Commander. The Kh'raxians are so focused on their victory parade that they haven't noticed we've been seeding their approach vectors with stealth platforms for the past week. The trap was elegant in its simplicity. As the Kh'raxian fleet moved to deliver their killing blow, they found their carefully planned formations disrupted by precision strikes from seemingly nowhere. Not targeting their ships that would be too obvious. Instead, human forces attacked their sensor arrays, communication relays, and targeting systems. This is impossible. Vex Thor's rage-filled voice boomed across the command channel. You were beaten. We saw your ships retreat. Did you, though? Blackwood's response dripped with false sympathy. Or did you see what we wanted you to see? By the way, how's your fleet's coordination holding up without long-range communications? The Kh'raxian response was to do what they did best: unleash overwhelming firepower in every direction. The space around Proxima Centauri lit up like a supernova as they carpet-bombed entire sectors, determined to destroy their hidden tormentors. All that firepower, Blackwood mused, watching the display, and they still haven't hit a single one of our actual combat units. Patel, show them what precision targeting looks like. Human ships emerged from hiding, striking with surgical accuracy, each shot disabled rather than destroyed, each target carefully chosen to create maximum chaos with minimum casualties. The Kh'raxian fleet, already scattered by their own indiscriminate firing, found themselves picked apart piece by piece. Commander Patel's voice held a note of urgency. We're picking up distress calls from multiple Kh'raxian ships. Life support failures, critical system damages. Deploy rescue ships, Blackwood ordered immediately. Full medical teams, emergency supplies, standard POW protocols. The Kh'raxian Supreme Commander, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. You're rescuing them. After they tried to annihilate your forces. Article 3, common to all Geneva Conventions, Blackwood recited. Persons taking no active part in hostilities, including those who have laid down their arms, shall be treated humanely. Besides, her smile turned wicked. Nothing confuses an enemy more than being rescued by the people they were just trying to kill. The psychological impact was devastating. Kh'raxian warriors, raised on tales of glorious death in battle, found themselves being treated with respect and dignity by their human captors. Medical teams worked tirelessly to save lives that, by Kh'raxian standards, should have been forfeit in defeat. This is not warfare. Vex Thor's voice had lost its thunderous confidence. You mock us with your mercy. No, Blackwood responded calmly. We honor you by treating you as warriors worthy of respect, rather than resources to be expended. There's a difference. You might want to think about that. The battle's turning point came not through superior firepower or tactical brilliance, but through an act of mercy. A critical hit on Vex Thor's flagship left the Grand Admiral trapped in a rapidly deteriorating command center. Standard Kh'raxian protocol demanded honorable death rather than rescue. Human protocol demanded something else entirely. Grand Admiral Blackwood's voice cut through the chaos on his bridge. Your life support is failing. Accept our assistance, and I give you my word as a warrior that you and your crew will be treated with full military honors. You would save me. The confusion in Vex Thor's voice was almost painful to hear. After everything, especially after everything. Because that's what separates warfare from mere violence. Now, shall we demonstrate proper prisoner treatment protocols, or would you prefer to die proving exactly nothing to nobody? The silence that followed seemed to last an eternity. Then, in a voice that contained equal parts rage, confusion, and something that might have been dawning respect, "We accept your terms, Commander Blackwood." The aftermath was almost anticlimactic. The remaining Kh'raxian ships, seeing their Grand Admiral accept human assistance, began standing down one by one. Emergency teams worked round the clock, treating wounded from both sides with equal dedication. "I don't understand," a captured Kh'raxian officer admitted to Patel as human medics treated his injuries. "We would have shown no such mercy. Why do you bind yourselves with these rules, these restrictions?" Because Patel replied, helping the officer sit up, "Sometimes the strongest chains are the ones we choose to wear. They remind us of who we are, and more importantly, who we don't want to become." In her command center, Blackwood watched the rescue operations with satisfaction. "You know what the real irony is," she remarked to Tzil. "If they'd actually studied human military history, instead of dismissing our rules as weakness, they might have recognized half the tactics we used against them. We've been perfecting the art of winning without wholesale slaughter for centuries." Perhaps Tzil responded thoughtfully, "That is precisely why your species was admitted to the Galactic Defense Force. Not despite your restrictions, but because of them." Now there's an interesting thought. Blackwood turned back to her reports. After all, even victory had to be documented in triplicate. Sometimes the best way to teach a lesson about warfare isn't to destroy your enemy, but to show them a better way to fight, Tzil finished, finally understanding the true power of human military doctrine. The medical bay of the GDF Thermopylae wasn't designed for beings of Vex Thor size, but human engineers had managed to adapt equipment with their usual resourcefulness. The Grand Admiral's chitinous form lay connected to life support systems while Commander Blackwood sat nearby, 2 cups of synthesized beverages between them. You knew Vex Thor's voice was quieter now, lacking its usual thunderous quality. From the beginning, you knew exactly how we would react to your methods. Obviously, Blackwood took a sip from her cup. You'd spent so long fighting enemies who matched your brutality that you'd forgotten how to handle an opponent who refused to play by your rules. Or rather, who played by different rules entirely. The Grand Admiral's sensor nodes flickered in what humans had learned to recognize as contemplation. Yet you could have destroyed us completely. Our tactical analysis shows at least 7 instances where total victory was possible. Total victory. Blackwood's laugh held no humor. "Let me tell you about total victory, Admiral. In humanity's history, we've had plenty of total victories. They usually lead to total wars, which lead to total wars, which lead to total disasters. We learned that lesson the hard way, several times actually. We're slow learners, but we get there eventually." Through the medical bay's viewport, they could see rescue operations continuing. Human and Kh'raxian ships working side by side, clearing debris and searching for survivors. The sight seemed to deeply unsettle Vex Thor. "Your civilization's military doctrine makes no logical sense," he declared. "You restrict your most effective weapons. You expend resources saving enemies who would not do the same for you. We adapt," Blackwood interrupted. "That's humanity's true strength. Not our weapons, not our tactics, but our ability to look at a problem and find solutions that don't involve turning everything into radioactive dust. Because guess what? It's easy to destroy. Any species can do that. Building something better? That's the real challenge." Lieutenant Patel entered the medical bay, datapad in hand. "Final casualty reports, Commander. Thanks to our precision targeting protocols, civilian casualties were kept to less than 0.1% of projected estimates. Even military casualties on both sides were minimal." Impossible. Vex Thor's mandibles clicked in agitation. "A battle of this scale should have left this system a graveyard," Blackwood finished. "That's exactly why we won. Because we fought smarter, not harder. Every restriction, every rule of engagement forced us to innovate, to think creatively. When you can't just obliterate problems, you have to solve them." The medical bay's screens displayed tactical replays of the battle. Blackwood pointed out key moments: precision strikes that disabled rather than destroyed, careful maneuvers that protected civilian populations while appearing to retreat, the intricate dance of seeming weakness that masked calculated strength. "Your rules did not restrict you," Vex Thor finally said, understanding dawning in his voice. "They refined you." "Now you're getting it." Blackwood stood, walking to the viewport. "Humanity spent millennia figuring out how to kill each other in increasingly efficient ways. Then we spent centuries figuring out how not to. Guess which lessons proved more valuable in the end? Patel's console chimed with an incoming transmission. Commander, the Galactic Council is requesting an after-action report. They seem particularly interested in our casualty mitigation strategies. Send them everything Blackwood ordered. Every protocol, every restriction, every rule of engagement. Let them see exactly how humanity wages war. Even our tactical algorithms, Patel raised an eyebrow. Especially those. Because the next time someone mistakes our restraint for weakness, I want them to do it with full knowledge of exactly how much damage we choose not to do. Vex Thor's massive form shifted slightly. The Empire will not easily accept these methods. They don't have to accept them. Blackwood's smile was razor sharp. They just have to remember what happened when they ignored them. Sometimes the best deterrent isn't the enemy you destroy, but the one you leave alive to spread the word. Through the viewport, a fresh group of rescue ships departed the Thermopylae, their holds full of medical supplies and emergency rations bound for damaged Kh'raxian vessels. Each one carried copies of the Geneva Conventions, carefully translated into Kh'raxian, along with detailed explanations of human military doctrine. You're not just winning a battle, Vex Thor realized. You're waging war on our entire concept of warfare. Finally, Blackwood's voice held genuine approval, a Kh'raxian who gets it. Welcome to the future of interstellar combat, Admiral, where the strongest warriors aren't the ones who can cause the most destruction, but the ones who can achieve victory while causing the least. The Grand Admiral's next words would be recorded in both human and Kh'raxian military archives, perhaps. Perhaps it is time the Empire learned some new rules. 3 months after the Battle of Proxima Centauri. The Galactic Council chamber looked remarkably different. The crystalline walls still sparkled, but the atmosphere had shifted. Gone were the sneers and mockery. In their place was something far more interesting. Attention. Commander Blackwood stood at the podium, presenting the final analysis of human military doctrine to a packed audience. Behind her, holographic displays showed combat footage alongside casualty statistics that made several species' data processors glitch in disbelief. In conclusion, she finished, the integration of human warfare protocols has reduced civilian casualties across all GDF operations by 78%, while simultaneously increasing mission success rates by 45%. Impossible, muttered one counselor, though with considerably less conviction than 3 months ago. That's becoming a rather popular word, Blackwood observed dryly. Right up there with unthinkable and preposterous, and yet, here we are. The Kh'raxian representative, newly appointed after the Empire's strategic reassessment of their military doctrine, shifted uncomfortably. The Empire has begun implementing certain aspects of human protocols. The results have been unexpected. You mean you're winning more battles while killing fewer people? Blackwood's smile could have cut diamonds. How terribly inconvenient for your traditional way of doing things. The Kh'raxian Supreme Commander raised an appendage, silencing the murmurs. The Galactic Defense Force has officially adopted human rules of engagement as standard protocol, it seems. And here their ancient eyes fixed on Blackwood, that civilization's greatest strength lies not in breaking its chains, but in choosing them wisely. Lieutenant Patel, standing at the back of the chamber, couldn't help but add, who would have thought that not committing war crimes could be a tactical advantage? As the council session concluded, Tzil approached Blackwood. You've changed everything. The galaxy's most powerful civilizations are voluntarily restricting their military capabilities. No, Blackwood corrected, watching various species representatives eagerly discussing human military doctrine. They're not restricting their capabilities. They're expanding them. They're finally learning that there's more to warfare than seeing who can make the biggest explosion. In the end, the greatest irony wasn't that humanity's restrictive rules of war had proven superior. It was that it took a species known for its capacity for violence to teach the galaxy about the power of restraint. As Blackwood prepared to leave the chamber, she overheard one final conversation between two alien representatives. Perhaps we should have asked the humans sooner. About warfare. No. About civilization.